All right, let's get the show on the road here. So for those who don't remember, last time we did have um, some issues calculating one of the burns, but yeah, the flyby burn. But after some investigation and some help from the devs, we do have a better way to do the flybys. So I'm going to quickly just open up the flight plan and of course the transcript. Good day. Apollo 11 flight journal. We are on laser experiment and a flyby pad readout. Let's grab that. And let's grab our notes book. So we're looking at what looks to be Apollo 11 mission rules. So that flyby was scheduled to be at MCC 4 time, so we would take the lunar orbit, the time of closest approach, and then we would subtract 5 hours from that. So let's go to RTCC. And let's just initialize the mission planning table real quick. Okay. So let's try for that calculation again. Now, one of the things that we found out was the specific processor that was used was having issues with the what looks to be HMIN MC. So we would take, there was a issue with the convergence on HMIN MC, and then we would set that to 40 and then back to 50. And that should give us the correct burn calculation here. So let's activate the mission planning table. Very good. Okay, so we come over here, we just make this a little bit bigger. Let's go to MCC displays, and let's go to our space digitals. GET, we're going to go U01, column 2, GET option, or where are we right now? 4511. Okay. So U01, column 2, GET, let's go 45 hours, 20 minutes. And so our time of closest approach is 75:59:59. So the TIG for this burn, let's go to maneuver targeting, return to Earth, and we need to go to return to Earth constants. Under column 1, we need to set HMIN MC to 40. And now if we go back and we go to the abort scan table, MPL landing site, we'll integrate our vectors at 70 hours, 30 minutes. And then we'll just round up to 71 hours for that time of ignition. Time of return, we'll go with 144 hours. No inclination change. If we calculate, there it is. That's definitely populated incorrectly. So here's our flyby pad, delta V of 9.22, time of ignition 71 hours, time of entry interface 144:56:38. Return to Earth digitals from 101 current. This will be made on 9 feet per second burn. Yeah, question is, would this be made on RCS? So this will be CSDX, because this will be a docked burn. There will be no ullage for this burn. Iterate, calculate. Okay, VC 5.1. BT 1.9 seconds. So it looks like we can make this on the surface propulsion system. So we will go ahead and transfer. M74, CSM, no replacement, and this will be return to Earth primary. Much better. Okay. So there's our flyby pad, new and improved. I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of this new flyby pad. Alright, I've got that saved, so we'll go ahead and reset those return to Earth constants. We go maneuver targeting, return to Earth, constants, column 1. Hmin MC back to 50. There we go. That's all we need there. We'll go ahead and deactivate the mission planning table. Oops, excuse me, we'll go ahead and delete that real quick. M62, CSM, maneuver 1, delete, no vector. Okay, that's all she wrote. Go ahead and pop open our checklist now and prepare for crew wake up. Okay, I was just gonna go and time skip along to crew wake up. I'll see you then. About 30 seconds to crew wake up now. Twenty seconds. Okay, crew wake up. Let's get some lights going. All right, good morning. Let's go ahead and get a cycle on our cryo fans here. And we'll check our gyro display coupler. Alignment's pretty good. It's about half a degree off. Accepting voice from ground. Comms config looks good. Omni Bravo. We'll go ahead and switch on our potable water heater and start activating RCS. Alright, RCS is up. We'll maintain PTC for a little bit, and we're going to make our mid-course correction 3 decision coming up. So stand by for that. We'll just switch around the batteries, and then we'll start making our MCC3 decisions. switch around those batteries and check our manifold. Battery charger off. Battery relay bus bat A close. DC indicators main able. Let me know if you need the floodlights turned up a little bit. I know that YouTube compression can make things just, you know, a little bit darker for you than me. I was even thinking that it may be just slightly too dark for me. Nothing to vent from the manifold, interestingly. After the initial vent. I haven't had to vent anymore after that, which is quite interesting, because we've been flying for 3 days now. But we won't look a gift horse in the mouth. Let's get battery B on the charge. So we'll take battery B off the battery relay bus. DC indicator, select battery charger, select battery B. And then we will continue our time skipping. We'll stop at approximately maybe 15 or 20 minutes before the MCC3 decision update, and that should give us ample time to make our calculations. So enjoy the revolving restaurant. Feel free to grab a drink. Today is going to be a very chilled day. Oops, spacecraft sneeze. Do we have any scheduled wastewater dumps? No scheduled wastewater dumps. Okay. Possibly if we have mid-course correction, then we'll make that wastewater dump. Until then, we'll let the pressure relief valve continue to do its job. All right. So ready to begin making our mid-course correction 3 decisions. Let me just go ahead and pull that up on the flight transcript here. Viewing West Africa, or viewing Africa and breakfast. Here we go. Passive thermal control is stopped. It looks like MCC3 in real life was scrubbed. Mid-course correction 3. We're deleting mid-course correction 3 and all associated items with it. Okay, yes. According to the mission rules, if we take a look at MCC3, here we go. MCC3 will be executed only if lunar orbit insertion cannot be targeted within altitude and apsoidal shift constraints to correct the TLC dispersions. Right, so almost always MCC3 is not burned. Let's go ahead and make our determinations and our calculations, and let's see what we come up with. So we'll go ahead and open up to real-time computer complexes. We'll go ahead and initialize the mission planning table. Alright, mission planning table's active. We'll go ahead and go to maneuver targeting, translunar, mid-course processor. So this is going to be option 1, nodal targeting, option 2, on skeleton flight plan, nominal targets. Let me just double check that. Yep, option 1, SFP 2. Okay. That is exactly what it is. So we need to get a time of ignition. MCC3 is TLI minus 22 hours. Let's go ahead and run up our space digitals real quick. So space digitals U01, column 2, GET, current GET is 51 hours. Let's go 51:20. So height at closest approach is 58.02 with a time of closest approach of 75:59:59. So we'll just round that up to 76. So time of ignition will be 76 minus 22 is 54 hours. So 54 hours. Then we'll nab our vectors at 53:30. We will be docked for this burn. So mid-course correction, yeah, 0.3 feet per second. We are easily going to be scrubbing MCC3 in place of MCC4, so we will not even transfer this to the flight plan. We'll just go ahead and deactivate the mission planning table, and that's all she wrote there. MCC4 will always be burned, so we'll go ahead and burn MCC4 regardless of what delta V it is. Just to get us a perfect 60 nautical mile height at Paracynthian. Okay, MCC4 is scrubbed. So that's right, we'll need to make a state vector update. Totally forgot about that. We don't need to reinitialize the mission planning table because we just did it a few minutes ago, so we'll just go ahead and activate it again. And then go to uplinks, display, CMC navigation update is display 2. And so we will go, we are in PTC, so we will not do the verb 37 or anything like that. We'll just go uplink telemetry to accept. And target we can't select because we are in mission planning table mode. So we'll just go ahead and calculate, and that'll auto-populate with our spacecraft that we're using. And we'll go ahead and uplink that to the AGC. Yep, as I said, we will be performing the wastewater dump during this MCC time, which is scrubbed, but it's still considered this block out time period of when the MCC would be. So as it's running through, just making sure that these numbers coincide with what is being uplinked to the computer. And that all looked pretty good. So we'll go ahead and deactivate the mission planning table again. Close that out. And give ourselves a verb 66. And then I'll get that checklist out of your way. Pretty far from the Earth, and pretty far from the moon as well. In fact, we can't really even see the moon right now. It's right there. All right, next up on the schedule is terminating the battery charge again. So battery charger off, battery relay bus battery B, circuit breaker close, DC indicator select to main able. Check our manifold, which definitely won't be up to vent, but it's in the checklist, so we'll do it anyways. Yep, manifold's good. And we'll get ready for our fuel cell purge. Now, what's interesting is they are. It appears they're having us do this P52 inside of this PTC, so that's going to be an interesting one. H2 purge line heater on. Let's go ahead and get the dump started. And acquisition goldstone, very good. Fuel cell 1 H2 purge. Fuel cell 2 H2 purge. Fuel cell 3 H2 purge. Fuel cell 1 O2 purge. Fuel cell 2 O2 purge. Fuel cell 3 O2 purge. Purge complete. H2 purge line heater off. And coincidentally at the same time, wastewater dump is also complete. I think we'll go ahead and bump up this LED lighting. There we go. That's better. So we're scheduled up for a P52 and what looks to be inside the passive thermal control. Yep. So this should be fun. We're moving at 0.3 degrees per second, so this P52 is going to be somewhat challenging. But I think we can pull it off. Somewhat challenging at 0.3 degrees per second. Usually 0.1 is, you know, a lot easier, but we'll try our best and do what we can. If we get a bad alignment, we'll just terminate the PTC and then run P52 after that. So just shift around the flight plan a little bit. All right, here we go. Regulus, okay. Star 27, I was going to say that possibly is going to be covered up by the LEM, but looks like she is not. That's very good. All right, good, good marking and good alignment. Take a look at our GDC. Just about 0.4 degrees off. That's okay. All right, so it looks like today we're actually going to be doing some tests in the lunar module, so that's good. We'll be doing our basic comms test and basic ECS testing in the LEM. So we get to board the LEM for the first time. That'll be exciting. We'll go ahead and time skip to our PTC termination, and then after that we are scheduled to as you can see, make our maneuver into television attitude. There'll be a small television broadcast after we open and pressurize the LEM, I believe. Nope, okay. So we'll make a small test broadcast at that time. How much RCS did we kill? Yeah, we got plenty. Plenty of gas. So we'll keep it on the smoother side here. A lower time skip through this. Yep, so yeah, once we come up to terminating PTC, we'll go ahead and start beginning our LEM tests. We're excited to see the lunar module for the first time this mission. I'm excited. I like the LEM, it's my favorite of the two vehicles. So yeah, just feel free to kick back, relax, go grab yourself a drink of water. As a matter of fact, we, the crew, can go grab ourselves a drink of water. Unfortunately, only in 2D right now. I'm gonna grab some of that cold water. Take a nice sip. Ah, good stuff. All right, just a few more seconds until PTC termination. We got a minor oscillation, but nothing that should kick off the RCS. Too bad. All right, there we go. PTC termination. So we'll terminate at roll 263. So 180, 190, 200, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. All right, here we go. Move that checklist out of your way. All right, so manual attitude, roll, pitch, and yaw to Excel command. Auto RCS, let's just check our DAP real quick. We are on BD roll. So we will go ahead and turn off AC. That matches our DAP. We'll go ahead and actually we need that verb 48 anyways. Go ahead and do that to reset our deadband. And then we'll do the auto maneuver, changing up roll to be plus 263. Spacecraft control to SCS, then back to CMC. Proceed. Manual attitude to rate command. And proceed. All right. We are in television attitude. So high gain antenna. We'll go ahead and reacquire the ground. Verb 64 will tell us our angles. 3270, that lines up perfectly with the flight plan. So plus 30, 15, 30, and 270. S-band antenna, select high gain. Track auto. And beam narrow. Proceed. We'll go ahead and make our test television broadcast now. S-band aux select TV. And bitrate to high. Alright, tunnel lights on. Direct O2 valve open. Depressurize the cabin slightly, and then we'll go ahead and equalize the pressure. Surge tank looks good. Repress package to off, and pressure equalization valve open. Pressurizing the good old Lunar module. We pressurize just a little bit too much. There we go. Alright, emergency cabin pressure selected both, and we'll remove the hatch. And this period will make the test TV broadcast. They're going to ask us to key in verb 64 to see the numbers on the disky. And they'll tell us if those numbers are clear or not. And after a few minutes of broadcast, the unscheduled TV broadcast will be terminated. And we can begin our LEM tests coming up shortly. Okay, CDR and LMP, intervehicular transfer to the LEM. Connect O2 hose. And then because, unfortunately, it can't be simulated here, we'll have to, of course, board the LEM and open the hatch this way. Like that. Crew in cabin is 2. Floodlights all. Exterior lighting off. Descent water open. Descent oxygen open. Cabin repress to auto. And we get to begin LEM checkout. Very good stuff. It's very quiet and peaceful in here right now. We don't have the loud CSM, but the LEM will get, it's louder than the CSM by a mile, so we'll get there. Transfer to lunar module power, LEM power supply off, reset. LEM power supply circuit breakers open. Configure DSE to record all LEM data. Okay, so VHF AM A to simplex, receiver to B data only. Configure VHF B for data. So, circuit breaker or electrical power system, translunar bus tie close. LMP translunar bus tie close. Circuit breaker COM VHFB transmitter. Close. VHFB transmitter to data. Telemetry bit rate low. And they're going to get telemetry from the CSM transmission through VHF, right? Because the S-band takes up so much power and stuff. The transponder's got to be turned on, the power amplifier. Whereas if you do it this way, you could just transmit the data from, instead of S-band, you can transmit the data using very high frequency to the command module, and then use the command module as a relay to Earth. So the telemetry readouts on the S-band system can read out the data it sees from the VHF. And this is how they can evaluate whether or not at this stage of the game the lunar module is go to continue the lunar mission. If not, then we need to talk about, do we make this an Apollo 8 style mission, or do we do the flyby, go around, and abort? Because you can always go around. Just like in an airplane, you can always go around. So that decision is currently being made. I can tell you that based on the data received, the lunar module is looking great. There is no need at this point in time that we would need to do one of those direct aborts or fly by and go around. At this point in time, the LEM, or even making it an Apollo 8 style mission, at this point in time, the LEM is go for tomorrow, the lunar orbit insertion. And by tomorrow, I mean mission day tomorrow, probably. I won't be streaming again for quite some time. So yeah, we're good to continue the mission. The LEM is good. She'll treat us nicely. Yeah, everything looks great. So we'll see on power up. If we can get through power up with no issues, then we'll talk about the descent orbit insertion. If that's performed with no issues, then we'll talk about the landing. So first, we need to insert into lunar orbit. And that's scheduled to happen tomorrow. Yeah, telemetry looks good. We can go ahead and switch everything off. So VHFB transmitter off. Circuit breaker VHFB transmitter open. And translunar bus tie open. Translunar bus tie open. Transfer to command module power. And VHF off. So at this point in time, it would be LEM familiarization. And in about an hour, a small P52, followed by more LEM familiarization. If we want, we can have a quick peek out the window. Not too much interesting to see at the moment, though. So we'll just go ahead and close that. Take some photography of the paneling here. Great. Alignment again looks good. And this time, since we are at a complete stop and not rotating, we will, yeah, do a alignment here of our gyro display coupler. There we go. Significant improvement. All right, back to LEM familiarization. So, here's the lunar module, and yeah, we don't actually have the familiarization checklist, so we did the VHF telemetry checkout and everything. Aside from that, there isn't much, so feel free to ask any questions, and then in the few minutes we've got remaining before the LEM closeout, I'm going to be taking a break, and if any questions come in, I will answer them. I'll be back in about probably 5 minutes. All right. Back to it. Lem closeout time. So descent H2O close. Descent O2 close. Cabin repress close. ECS cabin repress circuit breaker open. Floodlighting to off. And we'll go ahead and remove the crew. Close the hatch. And we will re-ingress at 81 hours, 41 minutes. Crew in cabin 3. Disconnect O2 hose. Install tunnel hardware. Install CM hatch. Hatch pressure equalization valve close. Tunnel lights off. And start PTC. We'll still use BD roll. Proceed, proceed, proceed. Verb 46, enter. Verb 37, enter, 00, enter. We are already in PTC attitude here. CMC auto. Proceed, proceed. At completion of maneuver, we'll disable the lowest fuel adjacent quads. So let's put up our sticky here. So A or B, B or C, C or D, or D and A. Let's make that decision. I think A is slightly lower than C at this point. D is definitely lower than B. So in combination with each other, the CD will be the lowest fuel adjacent quads at this point in time. So we'll disable quads Charlie and Delta. So we'll bring on Alpha, take off Delta, take off Charlie. Start the clock. And we will hold here for 20 minutes to let the oscillations induced by the auto maneuver damp out so that we get a more perfect passive thermal control. So we'll go ahead and lightly time skip through that. Twenty minutes. Pitch and yaw to Excel command. Enable all RCS jets. BMEGs are rate 2. And we'll go ahead and program in the PTC. So, because my mouse has an issue with double clicking, I think we will use the orbiter keypad as verb, or the numpad 24, noun 01, enter. Or excuse me, that was verb 21, noun 01, enter. 1332, enter. 00000, enter. Verb 24, noun 01, enter. 3125, enter. 12, enter. 35400, enter. Verb 24, noun 01, enter. 3175, enter. 2, enter. 27303, enter. Verb 21, noun 01, enter. 1332, enter. 70000. And as soon as we hit enter, we'll begin the roll. There we go. And we'll wait for that rate to establish properly. And she's in. And now we'll switch to the 30-degree deadband. So verb 21, noun 01, enter. 3255, enter. 5252, enter. Roll to Excel command, pitch and yaw to rate command. key with verb 83, enter. And proceed. Disable all auto RCS. There we go. A little bit of a latency there. Just a little reset on the old NIC. Stands for Network Interface Controller, by the way. We can go ahead and time skip through to the sleep stuff, and you could see really stable PTC when we do that. Yep, so we will go ahead and cycle the cryo fans. We were unfortunately in the middle of a heater cycle, so let's turn those off for a second. And get us a good minute of stirring. And turn those back onto auto. Alright. Sleep mode is engaged. S-band voice off. Potable water heater off. Going to sleep about an hour early. We'll turn down the floodlights. Turn down the integral lights. And that starts the sleep period. All right, day 4 will be a mid-course correction 4, followed by lunar orbit insertion. So that truly begins the lunar exploration. There'll be 2 lunar orbit insertion maneuvers scheduled. So mid-course correction 4. We'll insert into lunar orbit. It's about a 60 by 170 nautical mile orbit. And then we'll make a lunar orbit insertion 2, which is not a perfect 60 by 60 nautical mile orbit because of the mascons that were discovered from Apollo 10. They tried to account for that orbital perturbations and stuff. So it's not going to be a perfect 60 by 60. I still have yet to decide on if because the rendezvous programs will, of course, compensate for that small amount of error. It's just that, they did some RTCC magic to make, to spend less gas and stuff in a rendezvous. So I have yet to decide on if I want to do that. I'm leaning towards, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So the 2 lunar orbit insertions. And then after that, it will be equalizing pressure with the lunar module. We'll be then doing some power up of the lunar module just for about 20 minutes before we maneuver to some ground track attitude. We do the tracking of the surface, and then it'll be a pretty much a sleep period there. That small power up we do to check things out will power down, and then day 4 is just that insertion into lunar orbit. Day 5 is when we actually begin to do that power up and to do the descent orbit and the landing. So yeah. Day 4 we insert into lunar orbit, and day 5 we do our landing. So it should be exciting. We're up to the final legs here. And before I end off, I know that it's not scheduled right now, but I did just want to make a check on how our mid-course correction 4 is looking. So I'll go ahead and pull that up. We'll go ahead and initialize the mission planning table. All right, mission planning tables initialized. We'll go ahead and set that to active. Maneuver targeting, translunar, mid-course processor. So mid-course correction 4 is scheduled for lunar orbit insertion T-minus 5 hours. I don't see, since we didn't do an MCC3, that time would change at all, but just in case, let's go ahead and check our space digitals. So let's go with U01, column 2, GET. The current time is about 62 hours. We could choose any time, but of course we don't want to choose a time that's right at the moon. We want to choose a time that's, shortly in the future. So time of closest approach is still 75, 59, 59, but our height has decreased down to 57.98. So we will need to bring that up slightly. So maneuver targeting, translunar, MCC4, 76 hours minus 5 is about 71 hours for MCC4. So time of ignition, 71 hours. 0 minutes, 0 seconds. We'll integrate our vectors at 70 hours, 30 minutes. This will be MCC4, so we'll just go ahead and select that. Docked, of course, and calculate. So we're looking at about a 1.2 foot per second mid-course correction. So we will be making that on our reaction control system, of course not the surface propulsion system. One puff out of the engine for less than a second will impart delta V greater than 1 foot per second, so we don't want to do that. We'll chew into our RCS budget. But you could see here, mid-course correction 3, you could see we've sort of let mid-course correction 4 grow to a point that justifies burning it. Mid-course correction 3, we could have burnt at 0.3 feet per second, but the RCS to get into the attitude as well as the relative issues with ground tracking near the time of MCC1 and MCC3 usually mean that you really don't want to burn those unless you have to. So MCC2 is usually almost always preferred over MCC1 unless the trajectory is really bad. And MCC3 is almost never burnt, allowing MCC4 to grow, making MCC4 almost always required. So that's sort of what we've done here. You can see the difference in just about 7-ish hours. No, that would bring us up to 60. Yeah, just about 64, 60. Yeah, just about 17 hours. We've gone from 0.3 feet per second up to 1.2 feet per second, justifying a mid-course correction 4. So everything looks good there. And of course, as we make that computation more towards that time, that'll only get more required. Right now, this is just an approximation. 17 hours away. So it's an approximation. It's a really good approximation, but of course, as we've gone through the actual trajectory and we get closer to the time, the RTCC will be able to better model that since it's not so far in the future. So just checking up on that, and 1.2 feet per second, it looks like we will be making that mid-course correction 4. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to go ahead and switch off the RTCC now. We can see mid-course correction 4 will be required with about 1.2 feet per second predicted. We'll make that calculation, of course, on day 4. I just wanted to preliminarily see sort of what was going on with MCC4. Lunar orbit insertion 1 will be one of the larger burns on the mission. It should be the longest burn, lasting over 6 minutes and consuming well over 50% of our fuel. So that'll be exciting. It's a big burn, beautiful sights out the window. So yeah, crew is currently sleeping. We're currently in passive thermal control. And with that, I'm going to time skip till near the end of the rest period, but with that, I'll bid you all adieu. Thank you for stopping by.